What is going on, everybody? This is James Krasnerick here, back with another round of Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. For today's show, I'll be doing a little segment on something that has come up in the news today. 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick has proclaimed that prejudice and stereotyping is the reason why he's being criticized. Honestly, it's a pretty decent topic to discuss, and I figure, well, might as well get my feet back into doing radio stuff because school year starts Monday, gotta be doing more radio stuff, and also I'm back on from vacation as of today. But I think it's time we do analyze Colin Kaepernick and to find out, is his criticism fair? But first of all, we must talk about two types of criticism. The criticism for who he is and the criticism for what he is as a quarterback. The criticism for what he gets for his tattoos, for his ethnic background, for those kind of things, and his personal opinions, those are not justified by any means necessary. Disliking somebody just because, oh, they have tattoos, or oh, they're a different color than me, or oh, they're from a different background, that's just wrong, all right? That's not kind of criticism I go for, and that's not the kind of criticism you should be going for. In that regard, I think Kaepernick, his whole career, has been a scapegoat in a way. People have been blaming a lot of that stuff for him like that. But let's also talk about the criticism he's been receiving as a professional quarterback. And let's talk about if that's justified. Because when we think about Colin Kaepernick, he's not been to a Pro Bowl yet. But he seems to be, in my opinion, getting somewhat better. Like, I think he's a better quarterback now than he was when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. And here's my reasoning for that. He had to play with a lot less of a productive offense and a lot less of a productive defense this year as opposed to years past, the previous two. And also, if you look at it, in the 2012 playoffs, he was home for a game against the Packers, weak defense, and an average offensive line. The 49ers blew him away. The Super Bowl and, of course, the NFC title game against the Ravens and the Falcons, respectively, he performed well. I mean, his overall game statistics were impressive. But if you compare it to 2013, in crunch time, he seemed to have regressed a little bit this year. I know he got the 49ers to get the game-winning score against the Packers, and I know leading them to a victory over the Panthers, a team that had bludgeoned him in the regular season in San Francisco, was impressive. But he threw some dumb interceptions in the title game against the Seahawks. The one, of course, we remember the one Sherman tipped when he was aiming for Crabtree in the back of the end zone. That was not a really smart pass. In that situation, ideally what you want to do is you want to move the ball maybe 5 or 6 more yards and give your kicker a chance at least, not your kicker, what am I thinking? At least give your team a better chance offensively. Maybe get some yards, get out of bounds, eat up some clock, and then try to drive in for the winning score a couple of plays later. I don't know if that play was designed to go from Harbaugh to try to surprise the Seahawks, but I'm not really sure that it wasn't, so we really can't say either way. Overall, Kaepernick, though, does seem to be improving. I think his bright moments are becoming more and more frequent now, and he's playing more consistently. Like, he's not playing as, superhumanly great and having those kind of performances like he did against the Packers in the playoffs or in the season opener last year. But he's having more consistent games, maybe completing about 62% of his passes for about maybe 6 yards, 6.5 yards for an attempt, maybe 2 touchdowns, a pick, or 1 touchdown, 1 pick, something like that. And he's taking care of running the football. He seems to be the best at running the football amongst the quarterbacks in the pro game because he can slide when he has to. He knows when to get out of bounds. And he's so big and strong, it's not like a safety's going to be able to take him down by himself. Honestly, you look at the best safeties in the game right now, Polamalu, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Eric Berry, they're going to have a hell of a time trying to tackle him one-on-one. But if we're talking about Colin Kaepernick, let's think about the things that people have always said were kind of like his flaws in his game. And the biggest flaw that I think everybody points out is his throwing the football and the fact that he's not a great passer. That criticism is justified. Now, let's put it this way. If you look at other big mobile quarterbacks in the game, such as, other mobile quarterbacks such as Cam Newton, such as RG3, such as even Andrew Luck, because he's very mobile, for his size. Other mobile quarterbacks, we think about as being somewhat, smaller guys, but he's such a big, powerful guy, and that he's got a really strong arm. But the fact is, he's played some very good games in his career. He's been able to throw the football well. But usually if you look at the games where he's played well throwing the football, it's because he had a receiver that either had a big game like an Anquan Bolden or a Michael Crabtree or Vernon Davis, or because he went against a soft defense. His career numbers against defenses that are like average to above average are not very good. His career record and his career numbers against Seattle are very poor. His career numbers against defenses, even like Atlanta's, aren't that great. His numbers against even his own division, like the Rams and the Cardinals, have always given Kaepernick trouble. So I think that criticism of him being not a great pocket passer bears its head because the defensive lines for St. Louis, Arizona, or the front seven Arizona, because I believe they were on a 3-4, and also the powerful defensive line of Seattle, they're not going to let him run for 60, 70 yards a game. They're going to have to, if they're going to get beat, it's going to be by him throwing. And unless Kaepernick's having an all-star day or say if Peyton Manning or Drew Brees were to possess his body, there's no way he's going to beat one of those elite defenses by himself in a shootout. But all in all, as a quarterback, he's on the up and up. But if we look at the other starting quarterbacks in this league, I'll have to wait a second while I get the graphic up. This could actually take a second here. But let's go through the starting quarterbacks in the league, and let's find out who we can agree Kaepernick is better than. E.J. Manuel for the Bills, I don't think there's any question he's better than Manuel. Tannehill for the Dolphins, I agree that he's better. Tom Brady, Brady's... Let's actually, I think it'd be easier if we went through the guys that I think are better than Kaepernick, because there's going to be a lot of guys that he's not better than. Tom Brady, I think is better than him. I think that Ben Roethlisberger is better than him. I think Andrew Luck is a little better than him at this point because he's maybe almost as fast, but he's so much better from the pocket. Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers are obviously better than him. I would actually have to say that the majority of the NFC East is better. I'd put Eli Manning above him. And I can't say the majority yet because Nick Foles and RG3 haven't seen enough out of them yet. If Stafford didn't throw so many damn interceptions, I might be able to put him up there. Cutler, the same kind of thing. I think Rodgers is better than him. I think Matt Ryan is better than him. Cam Newton, a lot of people want to make that comparison. They're very similar. They are very, very similar in terms of their style of play, in terms of the way they throw the football, in terms of their, the teams that they're on. Both stout defenses that prefer to run the football. And very defensive and very, aggressive and very physically minded head coaches. I would have to give the edge right now to Kaepernick only because of the fact that he's been in a Super Bowl and the fact that he's played in the playoffs better. I would have to say, though, I think Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are obviously better than him. So if we look at it, going through the list, we agree with Brady, Roethlisberger, Luck, Manning, Rivers, Romo, Eli Manning, Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Russell Wilson. So that would pretty much put Colin Kaepernick as around the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. Now, if we were to look at the list, which I'm trying to upload right here, that would put Colin Kaepernick actually higher than he currently is on the top one amongst the quarterbacks list. Because other guys that I didn't mention, I mentioned Cam Newton. I mentioned Cam Newton. I thought Kaepernick was better than Joe Flacco, Nick Foles, Tony Romo. I just find it hard to believe that guys that have not done much their whole career in terms of playoffs, or have just basically been numbers guys with a lot of picks, can be put above Colin Kaepernick. I mean, again, if we're comparing him to guys like the obvious suspects, Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Wilson, Luck, Roethlisberger, Rivers, Romo, Eli Manning, those guys have his number because they've got better, more consistent numbers, and they've got either playoff wins or Super Bowls, things of that nature. If Kaepernick were to win a Super Bowl and play pretty well throughout the entire course of the season, he would obviously move up higher on this list. As of right now, though, if you just look at it again, the criticism of his personality, of his background, of his tattoos, that's really unjustified and actually really uncalled for. But his criticism as a quarterback, but just in the grand scheme of things, his play as a quarterback, again, it can be criticized and critiqued because, again, he's still a young guy and he's got ways to go. If we look at his career numbers right now, let's just look at him for a second. His career numbers are this: 382 of 639. That's 59.8% completion. Not bad for a quarterback who's really not a really great thrower, according to most people. 31 touchdowns, 5,046 yards, and 11 interceptions. For pass rating of 93.8. Not terrible. Not terrible for all things considered. But to criticize him for some things that aren't football related are wrong. But just the certain things he's being criticized for in the field about him not being a great thrower and him being basically just a runner, that's putting it a little too harshly because the guy has had some good games throwing the football. It's just that the great ones have been so few and far between, and he's played a lot of average games in his career. He's a decent thrower, but he's not polished, and there are other guys that can throw the football superior to him. And I don't believe there's anybody who's going to disagree with that either. If we look at the way that he's improved, though, I mean, he went from being a guy who was initially drafted as being a decent passer and a big-time runner. He's becoming a better, more polished quarterback. Still has a ways to go, still young. I mean, again, he's got less than 2 full seasons of starts under his belt, and he's already been in a Super Bowl. I mean, shit, the guy's done so much in such little time. I mean, hell, Ben Roethlisberger, by comparison, at the end of his second year as a starter, was ridiculous. Was almost like a 10-year vet by comparison. What I just think that it's unfair to do is to say that this guy's not going to get any better. I think he's going to get better. I really do. I do not believe he should be on the top 100 quarterbacks of 2014, though. Again, I would stand by that. I'm doing some research. Sorry about that, people. Again, I don't believe he should be on the top 100 quarterbacks, top 100 list of 2014. I think he should be maybe in the top 110. If we're doing a top 110, I'd probably put him in one of the top guys outside of it. But again, I think there are too many quarterbacks in that list anyways. And guys like Foles, guys like Flacco, guys like, Stafford don't really deserve to be on this list. I will be very honest and pretty clear here when I say this. As a runner, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league because he's big, he's strong, and he's fast. And he's decently smart running the football too. As a thrower, again, needs a lot more work. His javelin style, if it could be tamed a little bit more and got a little more under control, really can be something. If the guy were to improve right now, the way the Niners stand, the way that he stands, if he were to improve 20% from this season to next season, that could be the difference between the Niners losing in the championship game and potentially taking home their 6th title. He, at this point, is literally the X factor. I mean, I know the Niners are not going to have Navarro Bowman for a good bit of the season. And I know Aldon Smith had his off-the-field issues. But the depth of the 49ers should at least allow them to win about 10 games, even if Kaepernick plays as well as last year with the injuries. 10 games should be easy for that team. If Kaepernick plays like a Pro Bowler, if he has a season, say, with like 28, 25, 26 some touchdown passes, keeps his picks down, throws for good yardage, and ups his completion percentage, if he has a season like, say, Ben Roethlisberger's had the last few years, efficient, not a lot of picks, throwing touchdowns, a lot of yards, decent pass rating, completion percentage, the Niners could very well win their next Super Bowl next year. It could happen. But in all honesty, what I think is going to happen to Kaepernick is this, based on the way that I see the team going. I'm starting to see the team right now become a team where the offense is trying to catch up. They've made some draft picks if you look at their draft this year. And just look at the guys that they picked up. They picked up Carlos Hyde as a running back. They picked up Bruce Ellington as a wide receiver. They signed Brandon Lloyd and Steve Johnson. Actually, they got a trade for him because he's not a bad receiver. They added Jonathan Martin on offensive line for depth. Anquan Bolden is back as a 49er. And they also brought in Kasim Osgood. They're trying to bring in some decent depth at receiver and give Kaepernick at least a few options, which tells me that they're trying to at least give him the opportunity to succeed. Again, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. If Kaepernick were to improve his game by 20% this year, with all things on the Niners staying around the same as last year, with maybe a slight drop-off in their defense due to the possible absence of Aldon Smith and the half-season absence of Navarro Bowman, they'll win around 12 games, and they'll have the potential to be in the Super Bowl. So, the criticism calling Kaepernick. This is the final discussion. This is the final bit of debate. The criticism about his tattoos, about if he wears a snapback, or about his ethnicity, or about his background. That criticism is not only uncalled for, it's extremely racist, it's extremely bigoted, and it's pretty disturbing. The criticism of him as a pro quarterback saying he's never going to get any better, or that he's hit his peak, not true either, because he's got potential. To say right now that he's a top 5, to say he's a top 10 quarterback, no. To say he's a top 15 quarterback, yes. But to say right now that he's a thrower of the football that could use some work, I would be likening to agree with that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say about this. This is a topic that, kind of gets swirled around because we saw Kaepernick get the max deal in the offseason. Again, not too many quarterbacks are worth that deal, not even top 5 ones. But, in all honesty, when we stop and think about Kaepernick, he's a very good quarterback, very good player. But at the same time, again, he gets better, the Niners will succeed. If he plateaus and ends up, peaking right about now, they're not going to have any chance at winning a Super Bowl. But all things considered, again, a lot of the criticism for Kaepernick faces is unfair, but there is a small bit of it that is fair. But that's just my opinion on it. I hope you guys enjoy what I have to say. Take care. Have a good one.